Toms from Swanage to his first meeting. Welcome. And I'd also like to welcome to her first meeting our new Chief Executive. And I hope you both enjoy our first meetings here. Item 1, apologies. Have we any apologies?
Apologies have been received from Councillor James Vitale, Councillor Julie Robinson, Councillor David Morgan, Councillor Andy Canning, and Councillor Emma Parker, and Councillor Laura Beddoe might be late.
Thank you. Item 2, are you happy that I signed the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of July as a correct record? Thank you. Item 3, are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Item 4 then. As you may know, National Care Leavers Month is in November. And you may have been in the members' room and had a look at all the care leavers' artwork from their last exhibition last year. It's well worth looking at if you haven't been there. There will be a new exhibition called In My Shoes in Dorset Council County Museum, starting on Saturday for 2 weeks. And I hope you go and have a look at that because I'm sure it will be worth looking at. And now we're going to have Haroon, who is going to give us a small presentation about care leavers. So Haroon.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors and co-parenting. My name is Haroon. I'm a care leaver and an apprentice at Dorset Council. I'm here to invite you to a unique event this November, an exhibition celebration National Care Leavers Month. It is a chance to connect with stories and talent of young people who have navigated the care systems. This exhibition isn't just another event. It's a window into the lives of some of the most resilient and creative individuals in our community. You all see their artwork, hear their stories, and gain a deep understanding of their experience. As councillors, you have the power to shape policies and create opportunities for these young people. By attending this exhibition, you're sending a powerful message that you have valued their contribution and you are committed to support their journeys. This year, National Care Leavers Month, Rising as Me, Overcoming Challenges, Transforming, and Finding Your Identity, highlights the incredible strengths and potential within each care leavers. I hope you all join us to celebrate their achievement and show your support. We will share details about National Care Leavers Month events soon. Your presence at the exhibition means a great deal to those young people. Thank you all.
Thanks, Haroon. I'm not sure how I'm going to follow that, but so good evening, councillors. Kay Wright, Youth Voice Team Manager. So as Haroon said, young people have been working really hard on this year's exhibition, and they also have a training programme called In My Shoes, which they've been shaping and delivering over the last few years. So it felt really apt to them to call this year's exhibition In My Shoes too. They've also been working on creating a short film to tackle stigma alongside this. And the short film will be launched on Friday, the 31st of October. So, like I said, they've worked really hard on planning this exhibition themselves, and we are going to be down at the museum tomorrow setting it all up. Much caffeine and biscuits will be consumed, I think, as we work our way through that. So, as their corporate parents, please know that they would love you to see their work and to hear their voice. Please visit the exhibition, enjoy the immersive experience that they have told through their footsteps and their shoes. This is These are Haron's shoes, which tell a story about a struggle, a journey, and the joy of life. So please do pop along, and you can give young people feedback while you're there about what you think of their work and how, as corporate parents, you're going to hold your promise to them going forward into your work over the next year. Thank you.
Thank you both for that presentation, and I'm sure lots of us will go to Dorset County Museum next week to have a look at the exhibition. Thank you very much, and thank you, Haroon. Now, before we go on to the next item, can I say that there's been a lot of problems with our microphones and people not standing up or sitting down. They are not meant for people who are standing up, basically. But if you would like to stand up, it would be very good and hold your microphone. Otherwise, I'm happy for you to sit down and speak this evening, and we'll see how it works. So now we move on to item 5, public participation. The first question is submitted by Bedminster Town Council and read by Theo Langdon.
Press that thing. Yeah, hi there. Thank you for hearing this. Yeah, this is supported. I missed that. By Bedminster Council and Bridport Council. So, how Dorset Council are assessing the long-term sustainability of its community resilience. How are Dorset Council assessing the long-term sustainability of its community resilience capabilities? What steps are being taken to improve public awareness, involvement and ownership of resilience planning at a community level? Whether risk impact assessments are being conducted with meaningful community representations? How are Dorset's local resilience efforts being fed into the ongoing development and review of the National Resilience Framework? And in particular, can the Council please give commitment to ensuring the improvement of local resilience capability and ensure that the understanding is formally raised in national discussions?
Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Sean Bartlett to reply.
I've had a lifetime of being called Sean. It's all right. None of my teachers at school ever got it right. My dad thought it was the greatest Western he'd ever seen. I'm just like it wasn't Cat Below. So thank you for your question. I'm Councillor Shane Bartlett, Ward Member for Wimborne Minster and Cabinet Member for Planning and Emergency Planning. Dorset Council understands that building strong community resilience is vital for protecting residents and helping communities recover from emergencies. We work closely with partners through the Local Resilience Forum to strengthen resilience. There is an active community resilience group co-chaired by both Dorset local authorities. Earlier this year, the government published the National Resilience Framework and National Security Strategy, both of which highlight the importance of improving community resilience. Dorset Council also responded to a recent government consultation on this topic. Local resilience forums have received Home Office funding for this financial year, and some of this has been allocated to local authorities to support community resilience work. We are currently deciding how to make the best use of this funding, working with the Dorset Association of Parish and Town Councils and other partners. Public engagement is key to our approach. We plan to work directly with communities to understand where they feel most vulnerable and how resilient they believe they are. This will help us to identify priority areas for support. The Council's transformation programme includes a focus on community partnerships. This includes working with town and parish councils and the voluntary sector to develop new service delivery models that meet local needs with community resilience as a core theme. There are resource challenges. The Emergency Management and Resilience Team leads on community resilience support, helping parish and town councils and community groups where possible. However, this is in addition to their statutory duties for emergency response and planning. We await the outcomes of government discussions following the consultation and any updates on the National Resilience Framework, including whether additional funding will be provided. In the meantime, we remain committed to supporting communities and encourage the use of resources available on the Local Resilience Forum's Dorset Prepared website, which helps councils and voluntary groups develop and test their own resilience plans. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Shane. And thank you for your questions. The second question is submitted by Sam Hambury.
Councillors, thank you very much for allowing me to address you. I'm Sam Hambury. I'm one of the founders of Babu Gelato. We're a Dorset-based ice cream maker. And we rent 3 sites from you in Weymouth, in West Bay, and in Lyme Regis. And I've come here to represent the other kiosk holders and to ask you to review the rental increases that you're currently imposing upon us. I think, hopefully, you're very, very well aware every day of the sort of costs that we're facing from national insurance, from minimum wage increases, from the huge cost of ingredients, from rates. We are really facing an incredible storm of cost increases. And on top of this, we are facing these awesome rental increases. And I don't know whether you're aware of quite what the rental increases are, but our rent in 2016, it's jumped 54%. And in West Bay, it's jumped 68%. Now, I do not believe there is a single business in West Bay or Lyme Regis that is seeing anything like that level of rental of sales increase, of business increase. So, these are really, really painful increases. And I think it's, I've done some research looking on the internet about what the standard retail rental increases are at the moment. And for prime property, the answer is a very small increase sometimes. And for subprime property, it's actually a decline since 2016. So these rental increases really do seem out of proportion. We're also hurt by the fact that the harbour orders mean that we don't get long leases anymore. So one of the nice things about our business is we could invest in them because we had long leases. We no longer have those long leases. So it's a real disincentive for us to invest in our businesses. And I hope you feel that these kiosks, are a real part of our community. People have been going to the kiosks in West Bay for 40, 50 years. They're a very important part of the community. And we really work hard to make them special. You must understand, we lose money all winter long running these kiosks. Yes, we make money in the summer, but we lose money in the winter, and we desperately try to keep them open. But when we face the sort of rental increases that you're currently imposing upon us, we can't keep going. And what will happen, and I think we're already seeing it in West Bay, is you see a consolidation of the kiosks to maybe 1 or 2 landlords. You see a big fall in the quality, not landlords, of the quality of the tenants. And you see a fall in the quality of the offering, a fall in the breadth of the offering. And I think that's really letting down Dorset generally. People come to Dorset year after year for tourism. They love the kiosks. And I think it's really sad if the storm of cost increases that we face mean that those of us who've been running them for a long time have to step away. So we would just ask you to look at the rental increases. And we're not trying to be unreasonable here, but we are facing these incredible cost increases, and we would really be grateful if you could review that and not be quite so hard in the rental increases. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I ask Councillor Richard Biggs to respond.
Good evening. Councillor Richard Biggs, Properties, Assets, Economic Growth and Poundbury Ward in Dorchester. Thank you, Mr Hambury, for your question and your points. I'd also like to thank you for making some fantastic ice cream. And I recommend the maple and walnut if you haven't tried that. That's to die for. And I had one the other day in the Lyme Regis kiosk, so there you go. So quite a long answer, and I think to justify your points you've raised. So as part of the ongoing asset management reviews, the council is exploring alternative rental models, including income-based approaches such as turnover rents. Additionally, consideration is being given to the potential transfer of these assets to the town and parish councils, who may be better positioned to respond to local economic dynamics and community needs. These approaches reflect a more responsive and sustainable way of managing property and assets, particularly in areas with seasonal trading patterns with diverse business pressures, as you describe. The Council has a statutory responsibility, however, to secure best consideration, which is something that's laid out in the Local Government Act 1972, in relation to its property assets. So for commercial holdings, this includes setting appropriate rental levels. The income derived from these assets contributes to the Council's wider revenue budget, supporting the delivery of essential public services. In the case of the commercial kiosks at West Bay and Lyme Regis, these fall under the harbour undertaking, and as such, rental income for these sites is directed to the harbour's revenue budget. It is therefore incumbent upon the Council to ensure we continue to achieve best consideration in support of harbour operations. Lease renewals and rent reviews are standard mechanisms through which rental values may be adjusted in line with contractual terms. Open market rent assessments are informed by comparable evidence and reflect on the level of prospective tenant who would reasonably expect to pay. The Council acknowledges the challenges that seasonal fluctuations in trade presents for tenants. While market rent assessments inherently reflect such variations, we remain acutely aware of the diverse operational pressures faced by individual businesses and the implications for their long-term viability. It is important to note that the benchmarking rental values is inherently complex. Rental values are highly specific to each individual property and lease, influenced by a wide range of factors, including location, demand, lease terms, and trading potential. This means that direct comparisons across counties or authorities can be misleading, and I did ask officers to look at that. And risk being taken out of context, especially when non-grounded in like-for-like property data. While the Consumer Price Index, CPI, is often referenced in financial context, it does not include private residential rental payments. It does not include commercial rents, and as such, CPI is not a property market index, and the movement of commercial rental values do not necessarily align with general inflation. That said, there can be a degree of correlation in some sectors where commercial rents may move broadly in step with inflationary trends. However, the property market is influenced by a distinct set of factors which can result in rental trends that diverge from CPI. For example, in some sectors, rental values have decreased even as CPI has risen. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that, and thank you for your question. By yes. Are you ready, Mr. Frankel? Okay.
Good evening. My name is David Frankel. I'm a chartered civil engineer, and I'm also Neighbourhood Watch and Community Speed Watch coordinator in Staple, which is near Ferndown. Right, my statement first. I agree with the draft local transport plan objectives, in particular prioritising walking, wheeling and cycling, delivering a connected, inclusive network of active travel routes and minimising transport's negative health impacts. Lowering the speed limits is all about safety on our roads, yet the present 20-mile-an-hour policy does not mention safety. It's written from a driver's point of view. Traffic surveys measure speed, not the other attributes that need to be considered when assessing appropriate speed limits. If the drivers keep their speeds up, you're very unlikely to get a lower speed limit. The present 20-mile-an-hour policy appears to have been written to make it difficult to get 20-mile-an-hour limits in place. It was last reviewed in 2022 and is due to be reviewed in 2024. So my question is, when will it be reviewed to reflect current best practice and align it with the draft local transport plan, encouraging walking and cycling and putting the safety of vulnerable road users before car drivers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Andrews to reply to that.
Good evening, Mr. Frankel. John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Police Services. Thank you for your question. Dorset Council's 20-mile-an-hour policy places road safety at its core, clearly outlining our commitment to considering the implementation of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits where they can enhance safety for pedestrians and cyclists and contribute to a reduction in road traffic collisions. Beyond safety, the policy supports broader objectives, including improved quality of life, the promotion of healthier lifestyles, environmental sustainability, and strengthened social and economic well-being within communities. These objectives are closely aligned with the priorities identified in our recent consultation on the next local transport plan. Since the introduction of the 20-mile-an-hour policy, there's been a strong public interest, with many communities submitting formal applications for implementation. So far, new limits have been set up in Bridport Town Centre, Wimborne Town Centre, Langton Travis, Winfrith, Newburgh, Pimpern, Child Oakford, and Winterborne Kingston. Cheselbourne and Oakford Spain are scheduled for delivery this month, and another scheme in Wimborne is planned for November. We continue to support communities applying for these new speed limits. The strong level of community engagement and uptake clearly demonstrates that the policy is delivering meaningful benefits and remains well aligned with local priorities. Consequently, there are no current plans for a formal review. However, we continue to maintain close liaison with the Department for Transport and other local authorities to ensure our approach remains evidence-based, responsive and reflective of emerging insights from studies being undertaken in other areas.
Can I just stop you a minute, please? The questioner can't hear.
I'll wait for the written result.
Are you sure? Because...
Sorry, I have hearing aids, I can't hear anything.
Right. Are you happy to wait for the written...
I will wait for the...
I'm sorry we didn't realise you can...
It's not for you to apologise.
No.
Would you mind?
We're going to start again now.
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Frankel. John Andrews from Sherborne East. I'm the Cabinet Member for Police Services. In response to your question, Dorset Council's 20-mile-an-hour policy places road safety at its core, clearly outlining our commitment to considering the implementation of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits where they can enhance safety for pedestrians and cyclists and contribute to a reduction in road traffic collisions. Beyond safety, the policy supports broader objectives, including improved quality of life, the promotion of healthier lifestyles, environmental sustainability, and strengthened social and economic well-being within communities. These objectives are closely aligned with the priorities identified in our recent consultation on the next local transport plan. Since the introduction of 20-mile-an-hour policy, there has been strong public interest, with many communities submitting formal applications for implementation. So far, new limits have been set up in Bridport Town Centre, Wimborne Town Centre, Langton Travis, Winfrith, Newburgh, Pimpern, Child Oakford, and Winterborne Kingston. Cheselbourne and Oakford Spain are scheduled for delivery this month, and another scheme in Wimborne is planned for November. We continue to support communities applying for these new speed limits. A strong level of community engagement and uptake clearly demonstrates that the policy is delivering meaningful benefits and remains well aligned with local priorities. Consequently, there are no current plans for a formal review. However, we continue to maintain close liaison with the Department for Transport and other local authorities to ensure our approach remains evidence-based, responsive and reflective of emerging insights from studies being undertaken in other areas. Residents interested in 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for their area are encouraged to contact their local town or parish council or their Dorset councillor to initiate the process.
Thank you for the reply, and thank you for your question. I'm sorry you were unable to hear the reply. Now we move on to item 6. There are no petitions or deputations today. Item 7, announcements from the leader. So, Councillor Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. I won't take too long. First one I've got is to congratulate Councillors Northam, O'Leary and Dickinson on being awarded Pride in Place. So some of you may know about this already, but the government announced a few weeks ago that around about 100 localities, and in this case it's parts of Broadway and Littlemore, not all of Broadway and Littlemore, will receive some money. It's 20 million quid over 10 years, £2 million a year. It's a lot of money. It came as a surprise to many people, including the local councils, the local MP, and I think it's fair to say Dorset Council. Any money is welcome, of course. You could argue that it should go elsewhere as well, but the government has set certain rules. We're not clear on all the rules yet, but the money will essentially come via Dorset Council and will be spent by an appointed neighbourhood board. We believe that Dorset Council will appoint the independent chair of which, and the local MP and the ward members also sit on the board, and other members to be determined, we think, locally, but we're waiting the full rules. If anybody's got any questions, Sam Crowe will be leading on this for Dorset Council, but he knows no more than that, I suspect. But watch this space, but it's a welcome investment in Dorset. So talking about welcome investments and growing the economy, which is, of course, one of our council priorities, we had the third Pathway to Prosperity event today, which was held over at the Sailing Academy in Portland. It was very well attended. The feedback I got from it so far was it was probably the best one we've done so far. And the context today was on the clean energy supercluster. It was attended by the Crown Estate, who gave a very interesting engagement. They are very important for a lot of the things that may happen around Portland and offshore wind, and also onshore, to be honest. It's just an example of all the opportunities there are out there for our residents. As Bill Reeves, head of Portland Port, said today in his presentation, if all this happens, it'll be a complete game changer, not just for Portland, not just for Weymouth and Portland, not just for South Dorset, but for the whole of Dorset Council. And on the theme of growth, tomorrow sees the official launch of the Dorset Innovation Park Limited, which is the arm's length tackle company which we've set up. It's being launched tomorrow. It's a sign of our investment into the Dorset Innovation Park. Some of our tenants are growing already, including Atlas, Norco, and a few others, Kinetic as well. There are high-quality jobs. We need more of them. And today I was at an event this afternoon organised by Lloyd Hatton and Jessica Toll, the MPs for South Dorset and Bournemouth West, respectively. And the event was basically to try and put together a bid which will go in at the end of the month to make Dorset, and especially the area around the Innovation Park and the MOD ranges around there, and also including Portland Port, as the centre for drones, essentially. So autonomous vehicles, underwater, over water, land, sea, everything. The government are investing a huge amount in the defence budget. GDP, I think, is going to go up to 3.5% by 2035. We want a lot of that money spent in Dorset because it's jobs for our kids. Our kids have lots of capability and potential. Many of them leave to go to university and they don't come back. We need those jobs here so that they do. And we also, those sort of jobs will also drive investment in HE and FE. It'll allow places like BU, Bournemouth and Paul College, Coastland College, to generate those sort of skills that we need. We hear too often that our children leave because there aren't any jobs. We also hear businesses don't invest in here because there aren't the skills and we can't get the people. We need to change that, and I think we are doing that, and the launch tomorrow of the Innovation Park Company is just the first step. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you for that report. Anyone can ask a question relating to what the leader has said. Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Andrew Parry, West Parley Ward and leader of the Conservative Group. I'm very grateful for the update that was emailed out to all members this evening on the Cabinet's response. And I take it under item of this agenda, it does say leader and Cabinet member. So with a little bit of latitude on your part, I'd like to ask a question in relation to Councillor Robinson's update on age-friendly status, for which I celebrate and welcome. However, I have been made aware by a resident in my West Parley ward that their application for a renewal of a blue badge status is taking over 3 months for Dorset Council to deliver. That doesn't feel terribly age-friendly, as so many of our residents across Dorset rely on easy parking facilities that the blue badge provides. Could I ask of the leader that he consults with the Cabinet member responsible for parking and, of course, Councillor Robinson and himself and adults, for this matter to be urgently reviewed and for all councillors to be made aware of necessary changes or delays in ensuring our residents receive their renewal of their blue badge status. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Parry. It wasn't exactly what the leader said, but I think Councillor Roberts will reply.
Thank you, Councillor. I agree with you. I think the system needs to be quicker, and very happy to look at that particular case, but also take into account issues that may have contributed to it that we can learn from the whole process. Yes, this is just an example of why we need to develop age-friendly principles. We're just at the start, and we need to be developing this as time goes on. And I look forward to working with every councillor in the chamber to look at what works within our own individual wards.
Thank you. Any more questions on the leader? Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much. On your statement about defence and especially our young people, I would really like to urge the Cabinet and this Council to consider a further education facility in defence and perhaps cybersecurity for our young people in the north of Dorset. The north is quite a way up from Weymouth and Portland, and we do get forgotten. And I think something like that could be terribly exciting, and I would like us to consider that as a way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ireland.
Yeah, I agree, Councillor Jones. Our children live across the whole patch, not just in certain areas, and they need the skills and the education. I can't. One of the people present this afternoon had an announcement about cybersecurity, but it's currently embargoed, so I can't say any more. But watch this space. But it's one of the HE establishments in Dorset. I'll just leave it there. Generating jobs is important. I think jobs have to come first. If you just look at the examples of Bridgewater, for example, they've got a huge expansion going on, and it's all been driven by Hinkley C, because Hinkley C have a huge skills requirement, and they weren't able to basically fulfil that. And on the back of that, the Bridgewater College is making hay, let's face it. And Yeovil is another prime example through the close collaboration with Leonardo Helicopters. They're doing a lot. One of the things that we should recognise is that apprenticeships are really, really important. You don't have to do university. You don't have to go to university and do a degree. You can get the qualifications and the skills that our employers need. We need to make sure our further education colleges match those skills. It's a bit chicken and egg, but we're working on it, and hopefully we'll get there.
Thank you. Any more questions for the leader? Thank you very much. We'll move on then to... Oh, sorry, I just saw Councillor Taylor.
Councillor Taylor, Chancellor St Mary Ward. I'd like to say congratulations to everybody with regard to this outstanding news this evening, the investment in Dorset. I think it's incredible news, absolutely incredible news, and thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now we'll move on to item 8, the Youth Justice Plan, which Councillor Sutton is going to introduce.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This document is quite familiar to some of us. So the annual Youth Justice Plan is a statutory requirement. It was endorsed by the People and Health Overview Committee on the 19th of May and by Cabinet on the 24th of June. And so now we're formally seeking the approval of full council. So it's a combined youth justice service in partnership with BCP, which is graded as good. and has recently been upgraded by the National Youth Justice Board from Quadrant 2 to Quadrant 1 for its strong performance. That was a review earlier this year. Since, you've all read the report, I won't, and the plan, I won't say too much about it. I'll just pick out just a couple of things to sort of bring it alive for those who may not have reviewed all of it. So the first one I wanted to draw attention to is the positive use of diversion strategies, such as the turnaround programme, which has supported a continued reduction of first-time entrants into the youth justice system, which is now below the national average and has fallen by 42% over the past 5 years. Secondly, the Discover You project has supported 21 young people not in education, employment or training with access to volunteering activities, qualifications and mentoring opportunities. And thirdly, the Re-Engage project has supported earlier intervention for young people on the edge of exclusion from school, who are therefore at increased risk of criminalisation. And what this is really drawing attention to is the very high need of speech and language support for quite a lot of our young people. So 94% of those who've been assessed under this programme have been identified as having communication needs, and obviously that enables us to provide a better support. So I'll stop there. I'm happy to take any questions with the team and to propose the recommendation. Thank you.
That's going to be seconded by Councillor Fry. Speak now.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm very happy to second this report. It's very full, very detailed, very thorough, and I think we should thank all the authors for this report. Thank you.
Anyone like to debate this report? In that case, I'm going to put the recommendation straight to the vote.
The vote is now open. Councillor Somper, could you press your button for me again, please? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. The vote is now closed. That is 75 members in favour. It's therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very pleased that that was unanimous. Now we'll move on to item 9, the Community Governance Review, which Councillor Ireland will introduce.
Thank you, Chair. I don't intend to spend too long on this. So back in a few years ago, we did a community governance review under the previous administration. Councillor Flower chaired the group, which essentially consisted of the leaders of the relevant parties at the time. One of the outcomes of this has apparently been unpopular with the residents of Loaders, etc. So they've petitioned us, and as a result of the petition, this is why we are here tonight with this paper. I'm not going to go into the details. Most of what you need to know is in item 5 in the report. I am aware that all members received an email about this, but Jackie Andrews also then sent an email back to explain, I hope, adequately. But Jackie's here if any questions need to be answered. I'm not going to say any more. It's something we need to do. It's a process we need to follow. I'm assured this is the correct process to follow, and so I just urge you all to vote for it, and we can carry on with it. Cheers.
I believe Councillor Isaac is going to second this.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Neil Isink, Egerton Ward. I'd just like to say I'm pleased as Ward Councillor to see this motion come before this council. Many residents in Loaders Parish and Loaders Parish Council have long felt that the changes made to the boundary in 2024 were not reflective of where they considered the natural boundary of the parish to be, and therefore I'm happy to second this motion.
Thank you. Is there any debate on this motion? Thank you. We'll put this one straight to the vote too.
The vote is now open. Thank you, councillors, and the result is 75 in favour. The recommendations are therefore carried. Thank you.
Thank you again for voting for that. Now we move on to item 10, the update on the scheme of delegation. Councillor Ireland.
Thank you again, Chair. I won't spend too long on this. I have got a whole lot of stuff I could read out. I'll just read the beginning and then leave it there, I suspect. Councillor Clifford's going to second, so he might have more to say. So this all arises out of the swap investigation, which many of you will be aware of. It highlighted various inconsistencies, lack of controls, and so this decision is actually regarding specifically a proposed updates to one section of the officers' scheme of delegation, which is Part 2, Appendix 2, Financial Powers. The officer scheme set out decisions and activities which can be taken up by officers. The financial powers section of the officer scheme applies below cabinet key decision thresholds of £500,000 and sets out the financial limits within which officers may conduct the council's business. So essentially this paper is basically putting in place controls that were missing. It's ensuring that the current SAP system has those controls in there. It will require probably a bit of change in culture. Some things won't be easy to spend money on, I suspect, as has been in the past, which of course was the problem. It hasn't been before a formal ANG committee, I believe, but it has been, and I quote, being given a good going over at the working group. So I trust Councillor Suttle is happy with this paper, and I'll just recommend it to Council. And Councillor Clifford will second, I believe.
Councillor Clifford, are you discussing it?
Happy to second, and I'll sum up afterwards.
I'd like to debate this motion. Well, very quiet tonight, so we'll put this one straight to the vote. Sorry. You did what I sorry, I thought you said you'd go. Councillor Clifford would like to speak.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I sit on the working group, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank the members who've put in quite a lot of time and effort and learning in areas that we perhaps weren't as familiar with as we thought we were. It's a cross-party membership. We've all parked politics and done what needs to be done for the good of the council, and I think what we're getting is seeing that progress is being made. I would say that's a really positive start, and this is the big first step in order to get where we need to be to put some of the compliance issues we've had behind us. But it is just the first step. There is still a very significant way to go. As an example of that, I have in recent days been made aware of further areas where senior officers are reporting to me compliance issues and governance issues that are outside the scheme of delegation. One, this shows that people are looking, and I'm really grateful that they're looking. And two, I think it shows a culture change at the top of the organisation that I hope will filter down through the whole of the organisation so we don't find ourselves in this position again. So finally, I'd just like to thank again the members of the cross-party working group, the officers who put in a very significant amount of time and effort. I can see Grace over there, and I know that Sean is online. The amount of work is phenomenal that's gone on here. We are getting there. There is still a long way to go. What we had in the first place was beyond disappointing, it was shocking, and I think we're putting that right, and I'm very grateful for everyone who's contributing to that throughout this chamber. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now, having heard Simon, Councillor Clifford, anybody want to speak now? Okay, we will go to the vote now.
The vote is now open. Councillor Robinson, would you mind voting again, please? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. And the result of the vote are 74 in favour and 1 abstention. The recommendation is therefore carried. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Now we move on to item 11, the questions from councillors. The first question is submitted by Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Good evening, Councillor Weller, Rodwell and Wyke. Over my time as a councillor, the subject of increasing number of second homes in Dorset has been a perennial problem, highlighted increasingly by our housing shortage and the burden being placed on us to find more and more sites on which to build houses. Not all, but some second home owners and their families do become welcome additions to our communities in which they buy homes, attending events, local churches and shopping locally. These are distinct from buy-to-let owners who one hopes will be providing private long-term rental homes to local families. However, in recent years, there's been a much more pernicious problem, that of Airbnb and short-let holiday homes. We are frequently told by planners that we can do nothing to prevent this. I don't believe this is true. Indeed, it's not true. There are clauses in a Section 106 agreement that can be imposed. Use Class 3, I think it now might be called Class 5, but I haven't been able to confirm that. That's the Town and Country Planning Order Use Classes, 1987. This defines a dwelling house as occupation by a single person, family, or up to 6 individuals living together as one household. Short-term lettings to a succession of paying guests do not constitute occupation by a single household. Each change of guest represents a new occupancy, which takes the use outside of Class 3 and amounts to a material change of use to commercial sui generis letting. The inclusion of single household clause strengthens the often stated wish in planning committee that members do not wish to see new build properties become short-term holiday homes, often sitting empty for 6 or more months of the year. So, first of all, why is this clause not imposed more frequently or even routinely? And I'll give examples which are specific to my ward, but since this is a problem county-wide, I'm sure members will know of properties in their own wards. The Groves Brewery redevelopment in Hope Square, Weymouth, which completed some 20 years ago, is subject to a Class 3 clause. And indeed, estate agents point that out quite specifically to prospective buyers. A newer development, part of the Devonish new build site, also in Hope Square, and I believe the regeneration of the former Devonish site known as Brewers Quay, also subject to Class 3 conditions. In the case of the Malthouse townhouses, buyers were required to sign a covenant between themselves and the developer agreeing to Class 3. However, the developer has reneged on this covenant and is not enforcing it. Request for action to the planning authority has been unsuccessful since the owners were told that this is a civil matter and does not fall within the planning enforcement remit. Whilst the covenant is a civil agreement between builder and buyer, the breach of a planning condition is surely a council matter. The phrase residential occupation by a single household provides clear evidence that when this clause is breached, the developer and Dorset Council are disregarding a binding obligation agreed to at the planning stage. It's not merely a private covenant between residents. Dorset Council should take the necessary enforcement against the developer and any owner in breach of the condition Class 3, not only in these dwellings in Brewers Quay, Hope Square, but any others across the county. Why are we not taking enforcement action? And can we hope that the Cabinet member will instruct officers to do so on this Weymouth site and any others across the county? I've given you some information on precedents for that, so I hope that we can see some action.
Right, thank you. A response from Councillor Shane Barr.
Thank you, Councillor Weller, for your question. Councillor Shane Bartlett, Ward Member for Wimble Minster and Cabinet Member for Planning and Emergency Planning.
That was one of the reasons I said you could sit, but if Shane wants to hold his microphone up, he can stand.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Weller. Firstly, can I confirm that the planning enforcement team looks into all enforcement inquiries submitted to check whether there is a breach of planning control? In the case of short-term holiday lets, it is a matter of fact and degree as to whether this constitutes a material change of use, and each case has to be considered on its own merits. The use classes order sets quite a wide definition for a C3 dwelling house, and in some cases, short-term holiday lets can fall within this definition, but this will depend on the circumstances of the case. There have been cases where the planning enforcement team have identified potential material changes of use of single C3 dwellings due to short-term holiday letting use and have negotiated the submission of planning applications or cessation of such use. There is no simple one-size-fits-all approach to this issue. In terms of applying conditions or legal agreements to prevent short-term holiday lets, National planning policy sets out that planning conditions should be kept to a minimum and only imposed where they are necessary, relevant to planning and to the development to be permitted. Enforceable, precise and reasonable in all other respects. Whilst every application is treated on its merits, the routine application of a condition to prevent short-term holiday lets is unlikely to meet the tests for conditions unless there is a policy basis for this requirement and or if an application is submitted specifically for new build holiday let properties. The previous government recognised that the C3 use class has had difficulties balancing the long-term interests of local communities with economic benefits of tourism and proposed to introduce a new C5 use class for short-term lets to address this. The new C5 use class has not yet been adopted, and it is not known whether this will be taken forward by the current government. In the meantime, local authorities are obliged to rely on current use class definitions and case law, and the planning enforcement team continues to consider each case on a fact and degree basis. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Do you want to supplement your question, Councillor Weller?
You would be surprised if I didn't with that reply, I'm afraid. So basically, we're copping out of a way that we could stop second homes, Airbnb. Second homes are fine if the people integrate into the area, but when they come for a weekend or a week, and those could be family homes, all the new development happening in Weymouth, where we desperately need homes for our local people, those will become holiday homes, and we're not going to take the opportunity to stop that from happening. And if I ask for a show of hands here now, I'm sure a lot of people would say homes for our local people are more important.
Thank you. Now we're going to question 2, submitted by Councillor Apothecary. I didn't realise you wanted to come.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Yeah, if I could just repeat that. It's repeating a sentence that was already in the answer, and that is that there have been cases where the planning enforcement team have identified potential material changes of use for single C3 dwellings due to short-term holiday letting use and negotiate the submission of planning applications or cessation of such use. There is no simple one-size-fits-all to this issue, but I'm happy to meet with Councillor Weller outside of this meeting with officers if she would like to take that up, that offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bartlett. Now we move on to question 2 from Councillor Apothecary.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Val Apothecary, Gillingham Ward. Recently, a resident in my ward received a fixed penalty notice in the post from Waste Investigations Support and Enforcement, WISE, on behalf of Pembrokeshire County Council for dropping litter in Pembrokeshire. He was wrongly accused as he'd never been to this location and could prove that he was in Dorset at the time. He understands that WISE is being contracted by many county councils in outsourcing certain enforcement functions. This includes Pembrokeshire, and he now presumes Dorset Council. Clearing his name and getting an adequate explanation as to how this mistake occurred from Wise was exceptionally difficult, and they cited the Data Protection Act as one of the reasons why. It was only as a result of requesting Pembrokeshire County Council to assist him in the matter that he discovered what had occurred. He hoped that I may be able to help alleviate this stressful situation by raising a question at our council meeting in order to answer his concern regarding the explanation. The explanation given to him was, in this case, Wise wrote to the address given by the individual at the time of the offence. The correspondence was then returned back to Wise. A trace was then made and high match found to your details, name and date of birth. And that was from Mark Owen, Public Realm Manager, Pembrokeshire County Council. Whilst we understand that outsourcing can offer operational efficiencies, it has to be a requirement that the third-party provider upholds the council standards of accuracy, transparency and ethical conduct. But more importantly, respect the data held by the respective county councils and not utilise it for their own benefits. So my question is, has this third-party company, Wise, ever been given access or utilised any data held by Dorset Council to find personal details, name, date of birth and address, in order to carry out this trace on my resident on behalf of another county council? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Taylor to respond?
Thank you. Councillor Jill Taylor, Cabinet Member for Housing and Health, which includes the enforcement side of what we're talking about. Thank you very much for your question, and I'm sorry to hear about the difficulties that your constituent is experiencing. I've checked with the Council's environmental enforcement team and can confirm that we do not have any contractual arrangements with Waste Investigations Support and Enforcement Limited. No access to any personal data held by this council has been given to them. Only our employees are authorised to issue fixed penalty notices for relevant offences, and they undergo thorough training beforehand. There is also a provision for appeal if the recipient feels that a notice was issued in error.
Thank you. Would you like a supplementary?
I can add, really, is that a county court action was threatened and there was no appeal, no opportunity to appeal, which you can understand why my local resident is so upset and trying to get to the bottom of what could have happened. There's something not ringing very true about any of this, really. I do feel that the Data Protection Act, somehow or another, has been broken. But thank you for your response.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you want to come back? Question 3 then, submitted by Councillor Spencer Flower.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Councillor Spencer Flower, Verwood Ward. My question concerns the Dorset Local Plan, Regs 18 Land Allocation Public Consultation. Given the magnitude and impact of the government's imposed 8% increase in Dorset Council housing targets during the lifetime of the plan, the recent public consultation on land allocation has caused a significant amount of public unrest. Sites have been offered for consideration by landowners and developers. However, a number were identified in the local maps without the owner's consent or were clearly contrary to national policy guidance and/or the NPPF, or had been screened out when the legacy local plans were adopted. It does seem rather odd that sites which have been through the rigour of legacy district local plan adoption process should be included in the land allocation consultation. I'm aware that following the end of the consultation period, officers will be using established hierarchy to sift out sites which cannot be delivered
or are contrary to the NPPF or other national policy guidance. The scheduled date for the publication in the next Dorset local plan is August 26, to be followed by a further period of public consultation with the intention of submitting a draft Dorset local plan to the Secretary of State during December 26. An appointed inspector would then carry out an examination in public, and the expectation would be that the plan would be adopted during late 2027. So my question is, waiting until August 26 to reveal such information would be fair and hugely concerning for those in our community who are anxious about the significant loss of greenbelt, sensitive sites and unadopted land caused by new housing being pepper-potted across the Dorset Council area. What action will be taken ahead of August 26 to make members and the public aware of which of these sites will not be taken forward? In the interest of transparency, will a list of these sites be created with supporting evidence and submitted along with the draft local plan to the Secretary of State in December 2026? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Shane Bartlett, Warden from Wimble Minster and Cabinet Member for Planning and Emergency Planning. Thank you, Councillor Flower, for your question. The local plan options consultation includes a large number of sites, many of which have been nominated to us, although it is recognised that some may have come forward from earlier plan stages or even previously discounted. However, there have been recent changes to the national planning policy which necessitate a different approach, including re-examining some of those previously discounted sites. The higher housing targets may mean that great weight needs to be given to the delivery of housing which the local plan process will need to test. There have also been significant changes to national greenbelt policy, requiring us to undertake a review of the greenbelt boundary and consider amendments to enable development. National guidance strongly suggests that we should not restrict our site proposals to those nominated to us, but consider other sites too. Where we have been made aware that a landowner does not want their land to be considered for development, we will reflect this in the local plan process. We have written to landowners to apologise and confirm their sites will not be taken forward after the close of the consultation at the end of the month. We will prepare a list of sites that are no longer available and place this on the website. We will also need to consider the responses received through the consultation alongside the ongoing evidence gathering to assess whether the identified sites are deliverable before any decisions can be made on which ones are suitable for inclusion in the draft plan. During this process, we will contact the promoters of the site to confirm their availability. The final draft of the plan will need to be agreed by Cabinet and full Council before it is published in advance of submission to the Secretary of State. I can confirm that the submission of the plan to the Secretary of State will also include details of all those sites that are not proposed to be taken forward. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Would you like a supplementary?
I do, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Councillor Bartlett, for your response. You comment on the list being put on the website. What you didn't do was say when. And I think it's important. Part of the kernel of my question is that we need to make the public and members of this council aware at the earliest opportunity which sites are going to be removed from the draft local plan going forward. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And thank you for the supplementary, Councillor Flower. So we will look to get an initial list of sites that are no longer available for development on our website as soon as possible after the close of the consultation and before the 7th of November. As we work through processing the consultation responses, we will add to the initial list to ensure it's as comprehensive as possible so it will be live. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Now we move on to question 4 from Councillor Parks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Michael Parks, Ferndown North Ward. Councillor Lugg and I understand from officers that there are plans to build a cycle lane on a section of the A348 Ringwood Road in Ferndown from Penny's Hill to Trickett's Cross. After around 5 years of severe disruption caused by the construction of the TCF project, residents have lost patience and are not prepared to put up with further unnecessary roadworks. Bearing in mind we now have an active travel routes running from Trickett's Cross through to Wimborne, encompassing access to Ferndown Town Centre, the schools and the industrial estates, we are bemused as to why this route, which was removed from the TCF scheme, is now back on the agenda. bearing in mind the current financial situation, can the Cabinet member responsible for this project explain the rationale as to why it is now felt necessary to build it, the evidence for its need, the timescales for delivery, and the costs of the project? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Place Services, Sherborne East Ward. Thank you for your question, Mike. Councillor Parks. The full package of Transforming Cities Fund schemes could not be delivered as originally planned due to the inflationary pressures arising from the COVID pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and other global factors. Despite these challenges, the ambition remains to complete the full network of safe and connected active travel routes across South East Dorset over time using funding when available. The proposed scheme between Penny's Hills Junction and Triggett's Cross represents a significant capital investment in local infrastructure. It is aimed at improving safe access for all road users, including those who do not have access to a car. The scheme will deliver upgraded facilities for walking, cycling, wheeling, public transport, and provide road crossings, helping to connect communities to local services more safely and sustainably. As part of the scheme, the ageing traffic signal infrastructure at Penny's Hill Junction will be replaced with the introduction of much-needed pedestrian crossings and improvements to the operations of the junction for vehicles. Drainage improvements will also be investigated to support the long-term resilience of the road. Importantly, substantial maintenance works are already required on this stretch of road. By aligning these essential repairs with the delivery of our active travel improvements, we can minimise the disruption to residents, reduce costs, and deliver greater overall value, while the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit introduced during the TCF programme has helped reduce vehicle speeds. Further measures were identified at the time to support lower speeds and discourage higher volumes of heavy goods vehicle traffic. This scheme would help reinforce those objectives. The estimated capital cost of the scheme is approximately £2.5 million. Early assessments indicate that offers strong value for money, with clear benefits for safety, accessibility, and long-term asset management. I know that delays have caused by the roadworks in the area over the recent year have caused frustration. As we decide if and what we want to do in this area, I will lead the engagement with the local members and the predecessor portfolio holder to ensure that we meet local needs and aspirations.
Thank you. Would you like a supplementary?
Does it me?
If I may, thank you, Councillor Andrews, for that very comprehensive response. I'd just like to pick up on a couple of points that you made. We absolutely accept that the traffic signals and crossings at Penny's Hill do need refreshing, but I don't believe they need to be tied in with an unnecessary cycling project. Unfortunately, we were all very hopeful that the 30-mile-an-hour speed limits would take the HGVs off that road. It's made no difference. In fact, currently it's probably worse than it's ever been. Times and views have changed since the TCF project was implemented. Can I have your assurance that before any planning for this project proceeds any further, there will be a new full public consultation?
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Councillor Parks. When we lead the engagement with yourselves and the previous portfolio holder, we can consider that.
Thank you. So we move on to question 5, submitted by Councillor Coombs.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will continue to show respect to this chamber and the role that our residents have entrusted in us by standing whilst in this chamber when I speak. My question is to the Cabinet Member for Children and Young People. Back in May, this council reaffirmed its commitment to the United Nations rights of the child. The UNCRC, adopted in 1989, outlines the civil, political, economic, social, health and cultural rights of children. It emphasises the importance of children's voices in matters that affect them and acknowledges their right to a safe environment, education and healthcare. In the written question, I have referenced the full minute because of what was agreed. I won't bore you by going through it all to now, but I will just talk about it affirms the commitment, establishes a Children's Rights Committee, signpost training and awareness programmes for council members and staff, engages with local communities of all ages, declares corporate parents as duty bearers and requires that all policies, procedures and interactions are mindful of the relevant articles. Can the Cabinet Member update the Council on how this is making a difference to the lives and lived experiences of our children and young people in Dorset? And I should have said at the beginning, Councillor Tony Coombs, Verwood Ward.
Thank you for that good question. Councillor Sutton.
Councillor Claire Sutton, Rodwell and Wycombe, Weymouth, Cabinet Member, Children's Services, Education and Skills. Thank you very much for the question, extremely welcome. Following the motion passed by all of us, full council, in May, we established a Children's Rights Steering Group led by Councillor Soweryhouse with a core group of Children's Services representatives. Progress so far has included 1. Training events delivered by Realising Rights, prioritising local alliance groups and attended by key decision makers. 2. A training session delivered to care experienced young people by a UNICEF Gold School Assessor. Thirdly, we have developed 2 new pages on children's rights, which have been added to the Important Information for Children in Care Guide. Fourth, we are in the process of integrating rights-based thinking into planning, procurement and evaluation, and we have also identified 14 rights-respecting schools in Dorset, 3 of which are gold standard, 5 silver and 6 bronze. Our imminent next steps include developing the infrastructure required for a long-term implementation plan, garnering support across the corporate leadership team and portfolio holders, implementing grant eligibility for schools to apply for rights-respecting status via local alliance groups. And our implementation plan priorities are to establish terms of reference and a formal committee to replace the steering group, roll out leadership and workforce communications and training, recruit and train young ambassadors for committee roles, and align the children, young people and families plan delivery with the committee's role and influence.
Thank you. Would you go supplementary?
Yes, I do have a supplementary question, Madam Chairman. I was really pleased to hear so much work is being done, which leads me to be more pained in asking my supplementary question as Chairman of People and Health Scrutiny and Chairman of the Inquiry Panel into EHCPs. Can the Cabinet Member please explain to me what action has been taken in light of the Director of Children's Services' refusal to support either a survey with children with EHCPs or a meeting? And does she consider it appropriate for members of the panel not to be able to meet with them, but only via the Youth Voice team? When I chaired the corporate parenting panel a few years ago, we were actively encouraged to meet with children and young people, the most vulnerable children and young people that we have. How can the Cabinet Member assure the panel are hearing the true voice of our young people on such an important matter?
Thank you. Councillor Sutton.
Thank you. There were a lot of words there read very fast, and I'm afraid I wasn't able to scribble down all the details, so I'm unable to answer. Can you just give me the things, you know, in a short number of words that you need me to answer?
I'd be delighted to.
Sorry, can you do this?
This is my...
Can you talk to Councillor Sutton afterwards about this? I mean, I'm all in favour of everything you want to do, but we only have really one supplementary question.
She couldn't hear the question. She's repeated. The member didn't hear it properly.
The Cabinet Member has requested that...
Sorry, I didn't hear it. Yeah. I think the acoustics in this room are still not very good.
Yeah, just to clarify, it wasn't that I couldn't hear it, Councillor Lacey-Clark, and I don't need the whole thing. It's, if you're reading me a paragraph, I just need the, you know, in a concise version, the points for me to address, please.
Okay, in a concise way, then.
Happy to. The fact that the Director of Children's Services has refused to support the request by the panel inquiring into EHCPs for a survey of young people or a meeting with them so that we can discuss about their lived experiences. But the only way we can contact them is through the Youth Voice team. This is not what we've experienced in the past in this council. We used to be encouraged to meet young people. How can you assure the panel that we are hearing the true voice of our young people?
Councillor Sutton.
Yes, thank you for the supplementary. I'm going to hand to our Executive Director in a sec to flesh this out a little bit more. But the reason why we collectively recommended that we didn't do a survey of these particular young people is because the example that I believe you gave us of the Leeds one that you wanted us to replicate was actually it had a 1% response rate, and therefore it didn't seem like a particularly good use of officer time or resources, or that it would generate anything that was really, robust enough for us to use. In terms of meeting them in person, we're talking about vulnerable, relatively vulnerable young people, and certainly, our professionals within children's services felt that this was a safeguarding issue, and therefore wasn't good practice. Another element was that, as I understand it, the request was for these young people to come in to the committee in the daytime, which would mean them missing school. But I see you're shaking your head, so maybe I've got that bit wrong. I suppose the main thing is that you know the Youth Voice team really well. You know how good they are at their job, and obviously their role is fundamentally to provide this. Sorry, I didn't turn myself off. But I would like to hand over to our Executive Director, Paul Dempsey, in case I've missed anything there or got anything slightly wrong.
Can I say this is not the right time to discuss? These are just supplementary questions to a written question. But I think we all appreciate everything that Councillor Coombs is trying to achieve. And I'm sure Councillor Paul Dempsey will talk to Councillor Coombs, and maybe Councillor Coombs could join this working party. Thank you for the question. Now we move on to question 6, submitted by Councillor Borden.
Okay, that looks promising. Sorry. Thank you, Chairman. Now I've lost my screen. Councillor Belinda Borden, Lyme Regis and Charmouth. Dorset Council offers blue badge holders with additional mobility challenges, restricted mobility permits enabling free parking for up to 3 hours, once a day. BCP Council offers the opportunity to apply for a residential disabled parking bay, which can only be used by the permit holder. I've asked before whether Dorset Council could consider this option for those of our residents with additional mobility challenges, so that they could park close enough to their home to get there safely. Please, could this be investigated again?
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Police Services. Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Bowden. We will continue to keep a close eye on the effectiveness of the BCP policy. Creating parking bays for individual people or vehicles can often have unintended consequences in busy areas. If we restrict parking to individual people, it may mean that other blue badge holders won't be able to park. Our current approach of providing disabled bays for all blue badge holders ensures that spaces aren't left empty when blue badge holders need to park. But we will monitor the BCP programme.
Would you like a supplementary? No, thank you very much. So we'll move on to question 7, submitted by Councillor Borden.
pressing the wrong buttons this evening. Oops. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure who to direct this to because it's a cross-department question. Understanding the need to adapt to known climate impacts, including more extreme heat, drought, and surface water flooding, could a cross-departmental, cross-party member working group be set up to help coordinate Dorset Council's responses on surface water management? We passed a motion in July 2023 promoting the use of sustainable drainage systems, ensuring the separation of surface water and sewage, the use of permeable surfaces where possible through the planning system and the local plan, and engagement with the water companies to focus their investment plans on the drastic reduction in sewage discharges needed to restore the health of our rivers and sea. I'm happy to report that South West Water has announced major investment plans for the storage and separation of the sewage and surface water network in Lyme Regis. This is in no small part due to the proactive engagement between the River Lim Action Team of River Monitors, the Environment Agency, Dorset Council, and the Town Council, and South West Water over the past 3 years. There are citizen science river monitoring groups providing similar water quality and ecological monitoring services throughout West Dorset, including in Charmouth, which are working together with Wessex Waters through CROWD, the Clean Rivers of West Dorset. A cross-party group could help to coordinate responses from planning, highways, and the climate and nature adaptation teams.
Councillor Bartlett.
There you go.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Borden, for your question. Councillor Shane Bartlett, Ward Member Wimble Minster, and Cabinet Member for Planning and Emergency Planning. Dorset Council is the lead local flood authority and plays a centrally coordinated role in managing surface water risk, ordinarily watercourses and groundwater. In performing this role, the lead local flood authority is tasked with developing Dorset's flood risk management strategy. It is also a statutory consultee for planning on applications where there is a risk of surface water flooding, taking account of future floodwater forecasts which are modelled on climate change predictions. The lead local flood authority is also required to cooperate and share information with other risk management authorities, including the Environment Agency and Highway Authority. Such roles are performed in accordance with statutory national policy frameworks around how flood risk needs to be avoided or mitigated, including any necessary adaptation measures. Under Dorset Council's duty as the lead local flood authority, we also support the use of sustainable drainage systems, SUDs, in all major developments proposals. The lead local flood authority and the local planning authority take a coordinated approach to the management of surface floodwater risk, seeking to reduce additional surface water input into foul sewers. This is backed up by the building regulations which require the separation of foul and surface water in new housing developments. In addition to the lead local flood authority statutory remit, the emerging local plan and accompanying design code will provide an opportunity to include planning policies and guidance on achieving high environmental standards in new developments which will deliver biodiversity net gain, climate resilience and mitigation of both ground and surface water flooding. The preparation of these policy documents is supported by cross-party member executive advisory panels and will be subject to adoption by full council. Furthermore, when the lead local flood authority reviews the council's local flood risk management strategy, this will be subject to member scrutiny. Therefore, whilst I recognise the importance of effective coordination of flood risk, I consider that there is no need at the present time to create a new cross-party working group. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Borden, do you want a supplementary? Move on to question 8, submitted by Councillor O'Leary.
Councillor Louis O'Leary, Little Morn Preston, the £20 million award as announced earlier. And Broadway. After reversing the plan to abolish the Cabinet system, the administration has fully used the executive powers of Cabinet, which they're entitled to do. However, other actions have raised concerns. These include setting up an unelected citizens panel on climate change to advise the Cabinet, what happened to the climate EAP made up of elected members, and it also includes moving the councillor question sections of this meeting to the end, which I know for members over there is the most thrilling part of the meeting. These actions just a worrying trend of sidelining elected and accountable councillors in favour of unelected bodies and executive members. Will the council leader confirm that he is committed to keeping all members, especially opposition and backbench councillors of his own party, fully informed about matters in their wards and ensuring that elected councillors are part in the decision-making policy over unelected bodies? May I just add actually a note of thanks to the leader on the 20 million, that in fact he has been very helpful compared to our Member of Parliament. He's been excellent actually, so I must add that as a note of praise.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Ireland to reply?
Thank you, Councillor Leary. In no particular order, I'm not responsible for the questions at the end of the agenda. It's the chair, but I'll then read out the rest of my response, which I've prepared. So, tackling the climate and nature emergencies and mitigating the impacts of climate change are key priorities for this organisation. While the council has a key role to play, delivering on this ambition will be a shared endeavour and one that I would hope will be supported by ward members from all political parties in this chamber. The Dorset Citizens Climate Panel is not a decision-making body and it does not hold any formal powers. It has been established to support and strengthen our democratic process, not to replace or bypass it. Its purpose is to bring forward insights, lived experiences and recommendations from our residents to help shape a climate adaptation strategy for Dorset. Ensuring the voices of local people, especially those most likely to be affected by climate change, are heard right from the start is vital to shaping our approach. The panel was formed through a transparent process led by Sortition Foundation, a non-profit organisation. A letter was sent to 6,600 randomly selected households across Dorset, and from those who responded, 22 individuals were selected to reflect the county's diversity in terms of demographics, geography, and attitudes towards climate change. This process ensures that the panel is broadly representative of our communities, including those whose voices are often underrepresented in traditional consultations. Involving residents in this way helps build trust in our processes and our decisions. When people see that decisions are shaped by people like them, not just politicians or experts, it makes the process feel more open, fair, and transparent. And I'll add that the feedback I've received after the first two sessions, which I believe Councillor Leary attended one of them, have been extremely positive. The quality of questions, the engagement the panel members have brought forward, and also the ideas they've presented are very useful. I understand the concern about the role of a ward and importance of ward members in local decision-making. The Council's approach to devolution is about empowering communities, not bypassing elected members. We remain committed to ensuring ward councillors are fully informed and involved in matters affecting both their individual areas and the wider council. I don't think a week goes by without at least one webinar being held for members, and this will continue. As an example, and to address the initial statement about abandoning the committee model of governance, the next webinar in the diary, which is Wednesday next week, is an update on the current state of devolution, which, as Councillor O'Neary will know, requires what is referred to as a strong leadership model, aka an executive or cabinet. On working more closely with our towns and parishes, I've now completed around 30 visits to our town councils and have many more dates in the diary for the next 6 months and beyond. I was at Stallbridge last week, Shaftesbury on Tuesday this week, and I'll be at Verwood next Tuesday, which is Councillor Farr's patch, I believe. A constant theme is that our town councils want to work more closely with Dorset Council and take on more responsibilities. The next step in that process is the Chief Executive and I, together with other officers and Cabinet members, attending the DAPTC, a Fresh Start Devolving Dorset event, which is being held next Thursday, the 30th of October, at which we'll be discussing how better we can work together for the benefit of our residents. And I forgot, I should have introduced myself, and I've got a very long title. Apart from being leader of the council, I'm responsible for climate, environment, performance, safeguarding, governance, and comms.
Thank you. Do you want a supplementary? No. Can we then move on to question 9, which is also from Councillor Leary?
Yes, thank you. Many of the bus routes and timetables in the area south of the Ridgeway around Weymouth are now massively out of date. They don't take into account new communities in Curtisfield, Chickwell and Bingham. They neglect many villages on the outskirts such as Broadmain, Nottington and Sutton Point. There is a great potential for more imaginative, up-to-date and profitable routes that would serve more people and areas, bringing the routes up to date with the needs of communities. Will the council work with providers, communities and elected members to carry out a review of these routes?
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Councillor John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Place Services. Too many questions. Thank you for your question, Councillor O'Leary. And thank you for raising this important issue regarding the bus routes and timetables in the area around Weymouth. We recognise that the importance of ensuring public transport reflects the needs of growing communities such as Weymouth and better serve surrounding villages. We agree there is potential to grow the bus patronage in this area and better respond to community needs. The Council is actively working with First Bus through our enhanced partnership, which provides a framework for collaboration and improvement. Additionally, our bus user group offers a valuable forum to review services and gather feedback from communities and elected members. Ideas and suggestions from these groups are regularly shared with the operators, and I welcome any input from you.
Supplementary, Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, very quickly, in regard to review, is it a yes or a no?
Councillor Andrews.
Well, I was going to give you that short answer, but I thought I'd better extend it a bit this time. But yes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to question 10. Councillor Monks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Craig Monks, Bedminster Ward. Following the recent loss of broadband in Bedminster due to a vehicle fire, I'd like to thank the portfolio holder and the officers for their prompt response in ensuring the vehicle was safely removed. Could the portfolio holder please outline what steps Dorset Council can take to review the resilience and security of our current broadband infrastructure and what lessons or actions might be considered to help prevent similar service disruptions in Bedminster or indeed across the wider county? Thank you.
Councillor Biggs.
Councillor Biggs, Property Assets, Economic Growth. Thank you for the question. Access to broadband and broadband infrastructure, as you probably guessed, is the responsibility of the network owner, predominantly in Dorset and in the case of this outage, in Bedminster Openreach. Service users, where they have critical functions, can opt for additional resilience. This usually involves separate physical infrastructure referred to as diverse routing, and this can be very expensive to install. These will be typically installed commercially and at a customer or site level rather than across an exchange area, I guess the public area. Officers have undertaken to review the incident with Openreach to see if there are any wider lessons that can be drawn. But fundamentally, this lies with the commercial operations of Openreach in this instance. Openreach have been contacted and have provided this further information as of yesterday. Our Openreach Network Operations Centre, short NOC, detected a hardware failure affecting just over 1,000 customers just before midnight on Sunday the 12th, going into morning of 13th of October. A major incident group was immediately mobilised and it was identified that the car had crashed into our pole and combusted. Once the fire was put out, our engineers reviewed the site and ascertained that the car would need to be removed in order for our engineers to access the area and work safely to replace the pole and local network. The removal of the car was organised by Dorset Council. I guess that's John's area. The council was removed at lunchtime on Tuesday, 14th of October, and survey work was undertaken the same day. Applications were made to Dorset Council to close off the road to allow for the removal of the damaged pole and tree cutting to take place so that the engineers could work safely to rebuild the network. The tree cutting took place on Wednesday, 15th of October, and the pole was replaced on the morning of Thursday, the 15th, which then allowed our engineers to recable and restore the network, which was completed just after 3 a.m. on Friday, 16th of October. Regarding resilience and security, Openreach network operations are on duty round the clock, 24/7, 365 days a year, monitoring our network. They work with operational teams across Openreach that are based in local communities to fix faults and get customers back in service as quickly as possible. The cause of this particular incident is not something that they could have prevented, but we mitigate the length of time required to make these complex repairs by having local engineering teams on standby to respond with supplies held locally to expedite the speed of repair. Our thanks to Dorset Council for their support with making the area safe for our engineers to make the necessary repairs. We understand that mobile networks was unaffected and remained available for use. For any customers that do not have good mobile coverage or require extra help and support with their services, advice is always that we ask that they please contact their phone broadband provider to discuss what additional support could be offered in the event of their service being impacted.
Thank you for the reply. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you for the response, but that sounded too aggressive. I didn't quite get the answer to my question in terms of what Dorset Council might be able to do. I understand that Openreach, obviously the service provider, but whilst mobile phone networks weren't affected, schools, doctor surgery, pharmacies, businesses, and pretty much the whole town was. So whilst Openreach own the network, I think we can do a little bit more to chase their security, because I can't quote what the engineer told me on site because it had lots of swear words in it. But there's a serious issue that he raised with me with regards to the connections. So I guess my follow-up is I would ask what more could we do to hold Openreach to account to make sure that if a whole of Bedminster is lost because of a car fire, what does that look like for anywhere else? Because that to me isn't really satisfactory. But thank you.
Councillor Biggs.
Well, as was said, it is Openreach's responsibility. They were not responsible for the incident being caused, and clearly Dorset Council will do all it can. They clearly responded, as they would say, within time, and there were, mitigating circumstances. This is why it took so long. I guess, these are quite rare events, thankfully, but still there are poles. My own house in Bridport Road, Dorchester, is fed by a pole, even though it's, fibre optics. That is the nature of the infrastructure. I really don't think we could do much more, but we always, if there's any lessons learned, we will take those on board.
Thank you. Now we come on to the last question of the evening, submitted by Councillor Monks.
Me again, Chairman. Councillor Craig Monks, Bedminster Ward, still. How can we better engage with local residents to ensure that they understand what a community resilience plan is? And how can we work together to identify the, particular needs and strengths of our communities to make sure future planning is truly effective and inclusive to those at the coalface and when local events take place? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We got there eventually. Councillor Shane Bartlett, Ward Member for Wimble Minster and Cabinet Member for Planning Emergency Planning. And I'm answering more questions than my colleague, Councillor Andrews, tonight, so I must have done something wrong. Thank you, Councillor Monks, for your question. As mentioned in response to the question from Bedminster Town Council, we remain committed to supporting communities and encourage the use of resources available on the Local Resilience Forum's Dorset Prepared website, which helps communities develop and test their own resilience plans. In addition to this, we are working with the Dorset Association of Parish and Town Councils to explore ways of strengthening our community resilience messaging to local communities. We are also in the process of finalising our input into a national community resilience booklet, which is being tailored to meet Dorset's needs. The aim is to make this available in a range of community settings, and we are exploring the viability of distribution to all households. We will also shortly be undertaking a survey across communities to get a clearer understanding of priorities, areas of focus. So in summary, we are confident that engagement will increase in the coming months. And can I just thank Councillor Monks for the invite earlier this year to myself and the emergency planning officers to meet with him and Bedminster Town Council and local public representatives concerning this important topic. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Do you want a supplementary? No, that's fine. Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Bartlett. You've been very busy this evening. Item 12, there are no urgent items. Item 13, no exempt business. So can I thank you all for coming this evening and hope you all have a very safe journey home. Thank you very much.